Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Mataji, today actually one senior devotee is giving Bhagavatam class here. So is it okay if we conclude by 8:15?
Your mercy, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Just requesting.
Please go ahead. No problem.
Oh. Thank you. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaura Krishna Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna. So welcome everyone to the continuation of our discussions on envy. So maybe we can just recollect a few important points from last time's discussion. Somebody would like to share a few points. Anyone? Yes, go ahead, Premanjali.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. It is envy is a cause of our material existence in this world. Actually, we are envy of Krishna. That's why we are here. The root cause.
Right. Okay. Good. Thank you. Yes, Lokeshwari.
Prabhupada, Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada says that everybody has envious to everyone else. So this is the cause we are. We are envious to Krishna. That's why we are here, and we want to enjoy like Krishna. This is the envious. And Prabhupada gave two examples, like from Hitopadesha, Panchatantra stories. So this is a dog with bone. Who see the shadow and as well as and the lion fell down in the well because of this. This is Prabhupada gave these two examples, and this is cutthroat competition also Prabhupada explained, which is self-explanatory, like they'll cut the and
right. Okay, thank you. Yes, Lalita.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare.
We saw like three steps. Like first one, what is the cause and what is the symptoms and what are the consequences of envy.
Right.
And in the what are the causes, we saw like if someone is competent to us, if we are envious like that, and how it is shown outside, like we try to suppress others, we feel unnecessary grudge on others, and consequences. We saw many examples from Chaitanya Charitamrita and Bhagavatam as well.
Right. Yes, basically we saw last time the causes and the symptoms, the consequences, and many different Shastric examples. And we especially discussed the pastime of Gopal Chapal blaspheming Srivas Thakur, and what was the consequence of that. So that we saw in detail. So now today we will discuss some remedies for this envy. So before we say, maybe somebody would like to share some remedies for this envy. One point we had discussed last time also, some points we had discussed last time also, but in addition, somebody would like to add some points regarding the remedies for this envy. Yes, Shrivani.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dhanvat Pranam. Sorry, Prabhuji, my video is off.
Okay.
So, Prabhuji, one remedy could be like when we see any good qualities in someone, rather than being envious, we can appreciate them and we can inculcate them in our in us if possible, Prabhuji.
Okay, very good point. Yes, so when we see good qualities in others, we can try to imbibe them, we can try to cultivate them. Yes, rather than being envious. Good, very good point. Yes, Vallabh Nimai.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. The same, but Mother has asked actually. The enviousness we can convert actually. We can take inspiration instead of competition. And we should we should feel empowered that someone, our colleague is so good or having such quality that we are also empowered with this.
Right.
And
right.
As you said, focusing on the good qualities actually.
Right. Yes, good point. Thank you. Somebody else would like to add?
Hare Krishna, Puji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Puji, I feel this that first I should think that I do not have so much time to just waste here to thinking about this, because I have to work on me. This will not help me to go back to Godhead, and there are so many things I have to do in this life to go back to Godhead. Why I am focusing here? And second, we have to think this. This will only burn me, lose me. In the last class, we have discussed the others examples from the scriptures, but I am own self is an example what I have lost by burning these things. We are losing health, we are losing mental peace, we are losing relationship, so many things in a practical way we are losing. Then why I am doing this?
Right.
Finally, I should pray to Lord.
Yes, yes, very good point. So ultimately, there's no use of being envious towards someone. It only is a loss for ourselves, and also it's a waste of time. Yes, so human life is precious, time is precious, and so unnecessarily becoming envious, finding faults, all that will simply be a loss of time. Yes, and yes, praying to the Lord. Yes, good points. Yes, Namrata.
Yes, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, done with Pranam. So Prabhuji, like as Prabhuji just mentioned, we have to focus on our growth, and we all are here for pleasing Krishna and our Guru Maharaj. So we have to understand by this act will Krishna and will our Guru, spiritual master, be pleased. So of course they are not going to be pleased. So we have to mend our ways for this, and so that we can focus on our main goal, which is to go back to Goloka. And since there's no entry, if we have envious in our heart towards even one single entity, we have to surely focus on our Krishna consciousness rather than being envy with others.
Okay, good points. Yes, will this be pleasing to Guru and Krishna? Right, good points. Yes, Premanjari.
Hare Krishna. Actually, we have to see, in which situations am I feeling envy? Even if I'm trying to remember these things other than that time, if I know in this company, in this association, or at this moment of time, I'm feeling envy. So I should be prepared with my first aid box. I have those things in my mind at that time. I'm going in that company, sometimes, and I should be full prepared. That is my point. Otherwise, we keep on remembering, but when we go to the situation, then we don't have that pistol to shoot that thing.
Right. So yes, so be prepared for the situations. Yes. Or maybe we could take one or two more. Okay, Pulastimani.
Hare Krishna.
Hare.
As devotees, I think we should be happy, when somebody's doing better than us. And we should also understand that we're all unique personalities with special gifts. All of us have a gift. So we should not look at others, so that would be a way of not being envious. We should always understand that Krishna has gifted us with special capabilities, and everybody's unique in their own way. So
yes.
We should not want what somebody else has. We should be content with what we have, and therefore envy would not arise in our hearts.
Yes, very good point. Yes. So everyone is unique and everyone has their own talents and skills and gifts. And so one has to be satisfied with what one has rather than compare with others. Yes, very good points. Okay, so I think so. We will, on that point, we will continue of being satisfied with what one has and not competing with others. So a very important and relevant pastime in this connection is in the 4th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the pastime between Indra and Prithu Maharaj. And this is very much relevant for all of us because we are all practicing devotees, and Prithu Maharaj and Indra were also devotees. And there was some envy and some competition. And then how did they deal with the matter? So therefore, this is a very relevant pastime for us. I would like to begin with reading a purport of Srila Prabhupada. This is from the 4th canto, 19th chapter, King Prithu's 100 horse sacrifices, text 2. When the most powerful Indra, the king of heaven, saw this, he considered the fact that King Prithu was going to exceed him in fruitive activities. Thus, Indra could not tolerate the great sacrificial ceremonies performed by King Prithu. Purport. In the material world, everyone who comes to enjoy himself or lord it over material nature is envious of others. This envy is also found in the personality of the King of Heaven, Indra. As evident from revealed scriptures, Indra was several times envious of many persons. He was especially envious of great fruitive activities and the execution of yoga practices or siddhis. Indeed, he could not tolerate them, and he desired to break them up. He was envious due to fear that those who performed great sacrifices for the execution of mystic yoga might occupy his seat. Since no one in this material world can tolerate another's advancement, everyone in the material world is called Matsara, envious. In the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is therefore said that Srimad Bhagavatam is meant for those who are completely nirmatsara, non-envious. In other words, one who is not free from the contamination of envy cannot advance in Krishna consciousness. In Krishna consciousness, however, if someone excels another person, the devotee who is excelled thinks how fortunate the other person is to be advancing in devotional service. Such non-envy is typical of Vaikuntha. However, when one is envious of his competitor, that is material. The demigods posted in the material world are not exempt from envy. So we see the example of Indra, who's envious, who becomes envious of many personalities because he's insecure that somebody might occupy his post. Two important points Srila Prabhupada is mentioning here. The Srimad Bhagavatam is meant for those who are completely nirmatsara. So the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita and the scriptures can only be understood when one is non-envious. Therefore, even in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna, right in the first verse of the 9th chapter, that I'm speaking this knowledge to you, this most confidential knowledge, because you are anasuyave, because you are non-envious. And the same point is there in the Srimad Bhagavatam also, nirmatsara. So therefore, the Supreme Lord and the scriptures can only be understood with a non-envious mentality. Because the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam are filled with the Lord's glories. And if I'm envious of the Lord, how can I appreciate that? I cannot appreciate somebody else's glories if I'm envious. And so how can I understand the scriptures which are full of the Lord's glories? Then the envious mentality will force me to think, why only Krishna is being glorified? Why not me? And so therefore, with the envious mentality, it is not possible. Therefore, Krishna also says in the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, Bhakto sime saka cheti rahasyame etad uttamam. Because you are my devotee as well as my friend, therefore you can understand this mystery of this knowledge. So, therefore, the actual understanding of the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam is only possible with a non-envious attitude. One may memorize the verses, one may read the books, but the actual understanding and realization of this knowledge is only possible when one has that non-envious attitude. Arjuna, he's a devotee, he's a friend, therefore he's non-envious. And therefore, Krishna doesn't feel any inhibitions while glorifying himself and speaking about his own opulences in the Bhagavad Gita. And so therefore, this is a very important qualification necessary in order to understand the scriptures. And Srila Prabhupada says here also that this is the Vaikuntha mentality. Such non-envy is typical of Vaikuntha.
Internet.
So this, in the spiritual world of Vaikuntha, envy is conspicuous by its absence. As Prabhupada has explained in this purport, in the material world, envy is conspicuous by its presence. Everyone is envious of everyone else. But in the spiritual world, envy is conspicuous by its absence. And that is beautifully described in the 3rd canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, when the 4 Kumaras enter Jaya and Vijay. So, trying to enter Vaikuntha, and Jaya and Vijay stop them. So over there's a description of Vaikuntha, and especially this non-envious quality. So 2 examples are given in that connection. So in the spiritual world of Vaikuntha, there are so many beautiful birds, cuckoos and chakoras, and so many beautiful birds who can sing so sweetly. Yet, when the bumblebee begins to glorify the Lord with his humming sounds. Now, how many of us like the sound of bumblebees? If a bumblebee enters the room, many of us would consider it as a disturbance. But when this bumblebee begins to glorify the Lord, all the other birds become silent. They do not think, what is this bumblebee creating a disturbance, nuisance? They don't think like that. Rather, they are appreciating, they are very eager to hear the glories of the Lord from the bumblebee. And the other example that is given is there are so many beautiful flowers in the spiritual worlds. Of course, we have no idea of these flowers from the spiritual worlds. so beautiful, so fragrant. But all of them give great respects to Tulsi, even though Tulsi flowers are not very beautiful. We all know Tulsi Manjari, small flowers. But because Tulsi is very dear to the Lord, all the other flowers are ready to respect and honor Tulsi. So these two examples are given to show the non-envious mentality of Vaikuntha. And so therefore, if we are desirous of entering Vaikuntha, of entering the spiritual worlds, then definitely we need to try to cultivate this quality of non-enviousness. We have to try to give up the envy. And so we find that, as some of you mentioned, that one of the important ways to give up the envy is glorify others rather than find faults. And so we find in the association of pure devotees, we find that when any devotee receives the mercy of the Lord, then all the other devotees become so jubilant rather than feeling envious. We find this so prominently in the pastimes of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We find in the Mahaprakash Leela, as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his role as Vishnu, he was calling his most intimate devotees and offering benedictions to them. And when each devotee would receive benedictions, all the other devotees would also glorify. They'll be so jubilant to see this Vaishnava receiving the mercy of the Lord. And we find how in the pastime of Maharaj Prataprudra, after Maharaj Prataprudra made many attempts to meet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then on the advice of Sambhadacharya, then Maharaj Prataprudra, during the Rath Yatra festival, as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is lying down in the gardens on a bench, at that time, Maharaj Prataprudra, giving up his kingly attire in very simple Vaishnava robes, goes there and begins to massage Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lotus feet, singing the Gopi Geet, Tava Katamritam Tapta Jivanam. And at that time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, hearing that Gopi Geet, he rises up in great ecstasy and embraces Maharaj Prataprudra, crying tears of ecstasy and showering him with his unlimited causeless mercy. And all the devotees who are watching this, they are so happy. They are not thinking, what is this materialistic king receiving so much mercy from the Lord? Actually, I deserve that. Why this king? They were not thinking like that. Rather, they were so happy, so jubilant, and they were glorifying how Maharaj Prataprudra ultimately became a recipient of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. And there are so many other pastimes. But the important point is this, that yes, within the association of devotees, this is very essential. And Srila Prabhupada, in the 7th canto, 5th chapter, verse number 12, purport, Srila Prabhupada makes this point. And there also he speaks about the Vaikuntha mentality and the Vaikuntha competition. And he mentions there that in the association of devotees, every devotee needs to appreciate and praise the service of everyone else. So everyone should be allowed to render service according to their own capacity, and that service must be appreciated. So Srila Prabhupada, he makes this point that yes, capacities may be different. Somebody may be able to, somebody may be like Hanuman, somebody may be like the squirrel, but if they are trying to render service according to their capacity, then that needs to be appreciated. And so that's the Vaikuntha mentality. And that's how we can create that Vaikuntha mentality even in this material world. As Srila Prabhupada said, all our ISKCON temples are in Vaikuntha. But in order to actually create that Vaikuntha atmosphere, while living and associating with these temples, then it is our duty to have the right attitude and create that Vaikuntha mentality in the association of devotees. So coming back to this pastime of Indra and Prithu Maharaj. So Indra, he has to his reputation, he has the fame of being the performer of 100 Ashwamedh sacrifices, Shatakritu. So when Prithu Maharaj performed 99, till that point Indra had no crown. But when Prithu Maharaj began to perform the 100th one, then he saw him as a competitor. And therefore, he was determined to somehow stop Prithu Maharaj from performing the 100th horse sacrifice. And he made so many attempts. So initially Indra came and he began to steal the sacrificial horse. And then Prithu Maharaj's son chased him. And Indra, he thought that this person may kill me. So he immediately disguised himself as a sannyasi and he left the horse and disappeared. And in this way, Indra actually introduced so many bogus sannyasi sampradayas by just because of his envy and because he was trying to save himself. And so many attempts he makes again and again, trying to steal the horse and then escaping in the guise of some sannyasi. And finally, Prithu Maharaj and the priests who were performing the sacrifice, they were so upset that finally actually Prithu Maharaj himself took bow and arrows to chase Indra and kill him. But the priest at the sacrifice said, no, you cannot do that. You're the host, you cannot do that. We will do that. We will chant mantras by which Indra will be dragged into the sacrificial fire and burnt. And so that's what they were planning to do, because Indra went out of control because of his envy. Just see, Indra is no ordinary person. He is the king of heaven. He has such an important position in the government of the Supreme Lord. Such an important devotee, such a responsible devotee with such a high post and position. But just see the power of envy, that even such an exalted personality stoops down to perform abominable activities due to envy, and ready to introduce so many bogus sampradayas just to save his reputation. That's the power of envy. And so finally, when the priests were so frustrated, they decided to chant mantras to kill Indra. And at that time, just as they were about to do it, Brahma appears. And Brahma requests Prithu Maharaj and the priests to stop this attempt to destroy Indra. And so what Brahma tells Prithu Maharaj is something very instructive. So first of all, Brahma tells Prithu Maharaj to stop the performance of the sacrifices, because Indra, by taking on the garb, by taking on the dress of so many bogus sannyasis, was actually creating irreligious systems within society. So Brahma says, just see how Indra, the king of heaven, was creating a disturbance in the midst of the sacrifice by stealing sacrificial horse. These attractive sinful activities he's introduced will be carried out by the people in general. And then he says, O protector of the people in general, please consider the purpose of your being incarnated by Lord Vishnu. The irreligious principles created by Indra are but mothers of so many unwanted religions. Please therefore stop these imitations immediately. So for the welfare of the people in general, for the welfare of society, so that they are not influenced by all these bogus religious systems created by Indra, Brahma requests Prithu to stop the sacrifice. So therefore, in this way, Brahmaji requested Prithu Maharaj to stop the performance of the sacrifice. How did Prithu Maharaj respond? Prithu Maharaj could have argued with Brahma. Why don't you tell Indra to stop stealing the horse? He is the culprit. He is the mischief maker. I'm just trying to perform my duty of performing the sacrifice. He could have argued, but he doesn't. He immediately accepts the instructions of Brahmaji and stops the performance of the 100th horse sacrifice. Now, apparently, it may appear that Prithu Maharaj was the loser because he could not perform the 100th horse sacrifice. And Indra seems to be the winner. But what happened after this? Even though the 100th horse sacrifice was not completed, Lord Vishnu himself appeared there. And what does Lord Vishnu say? That's something very significant. So Lord Vishnu, he's telling Prithu Maharaj, my dear King Prithu, Indra, the king of heaven, has disturbed your execution of 100 sacrifices. Now he has come with me to be forgiven by you. Therefore, excuse him. So Brahmaji told him to stop the sacrifice. Now Lord Vishnu himself is personally coming and requesting Prithu to excuse Indra. So actually, it's a great test for Prithu Maharaj. Performance of an Ashwamedh sacrifice involves so much of expenditure and so much arrangements and so much of endeavor. And just imagine, after all that, some authority comes and says, stop it. We may be doing some important service and put a lot of endeavors, and then some authority says, it's okay, stop it. How would we feel? How would we prevent ourselves from arguing? But here, Prithu Maharaj is showing by his example, he just obeys. As a result of that, Lord Vishnu was pleased and he appeared at the sacrifice. And then the Lord says, O king, one who is advanced in intelligence and eager to perform welfare activities for others is considered best amongst human beings. An advanced human being is never malicious to others. Those with advanced intelligence are always conscious that this material body is different from the soul. And then he says, if a personality like you, who are so much advanced because of executing the instructions of the previous acharyas, is carried away by the influence of my material energy, then all your advancement may be considered simply a waste of time. So in other words, the Lord is telling Prithu Maharaj, you are highly advanced, you are intelligent, and an intelligent person is not supposed to be in the bodily misconception of life. So it's only because of the bodily misconception we get so much affected by honor, dishonor, and praise and insult, by all these dualities, one gets affected. So Lord Vishnu is telling Prithu Maharaj, you are advanced. So, okay, it's all right. Indra may be in the bodily concept, but you are advanced. So why are you getting affected by these things? So therefore, taking into consideration that Prithu Maharaj, of course, he's Shaktivesha avatar, but he's advanced in transcendental knowledge. And so therefore, he is expected to have a higher character and better behavior than Indra. And therefore, Lord Vishnu is instructing Prithu Maharaj, not Indra. Of course, Indra is also there and is getting the lesson, but he's instructing Prithu Maharaj because Prithu Maharaj, he is the one who's actually advanced, and he will be able to appreciate and practice what the Lord is telling. So therefore, in many verses, the Lord tells Prithu Maharaj to come out of this bodily concept of life. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes an important point. One who is both devoted and highly advanced in intelligence does not take action against the soul or the body. If there is any discrepancy, he forgives. It is said that forgiveness is a quality of those who are advancing in spiritual knowledge. And then finally, the Lord tells Prithu Maharaj, my dear king, I'm very captivated by your elevated qualities and excellent behavior, and thus I'm very favorably inclined towards you. You may therefore ask from me any benediction you like. One who does not possess elevated qualities and behavior cannot possibly achieve my favor simply by performance of sacrifices, severe austerities, or mystic yoga. But I always remain equipoised in the heart of one who is also equipoised in all circumstances. So in this way, Lord Vishnu himself is glorifying Prithu Maharaj for his excellent behavior and qualities. What else is required? To please the Supreme Lord and receive appreciation from the Lord himself. And so because Prithu Maharaj gave up the performance of the 100th hour sacrifice, Lord Vishnu appeared and so much appreciated those qualities of Prithu Maharaj. And so therefore, Srila Prabhupada in these purports, he explains that yes, sometimes even amongst devotees, there may be some envy, but then just like Prithu Maharaj forgave Indra. So similarly, Srila Prabhupada writes, one must adjust the cause of the envy and cooperate. So therefore, if we want to progress in spiritual life, then it become and attract the attention of the Supreme Lord, become dear to the Lord. Then we have to try our best to give up this envy, which is definitely in the bodily conception of life. And therefore, we have to make those endeavors to progress on the spiritual platform by purifying ourselves through the process of sadhana bhakti, and especially the chanting of the holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So by chanting the holy names attentively and carefully, scrutinizingly reading Srila Prabhupada's books, and ultimately by trying to apply these teachings within our own life, understanding ultimately what is going to please the Lord. Usually envy arises because we are trying to achieve something on the material platform in terms of some acquisitions, facilities, post positions, name, fame, distinction. So we are trying to achieve something on a material platform, and that usually becomes the cause of envy. But ultimately, the Lord is pleased by the purification of the heart by the wonderful qualities that one is expecting by one's character, and not simply by material acquisitions. And so when we understand the goal and we keep that goal very clear in minds, and ultimately understand that Lord Krishna is in control. If he wants, he can make me famous. If he wants, he can give me so many things. And if he doesn't want, it will not happen, how much ever I try. So if one can very clearly appreciate the hand of the Lord in everything that's happening, and tune oneself to the desires of the Lord rather than trying to satisfy one's own selfish desires. And if one is fixed in the goal of how I can please Krishna, please the Vaishnavas, if one is fixed in that goal and fixed in the sadhana practices to purify one's heart of the various material contaminations, then, and when we do so, then we can wholeheartedly glorify the Lord, glorify the Vaishnavas, and by doing so, we can ultimately please the Lord, give up the envy, and become eligible to return back to Godheads. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Maybe we could take one or two questions. Yes, Anarpita Kripa.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dhanvat Pranam. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. So, very helpful lecture. Thank you so much. I don't have words to glorify your kindness, your mercy. So, my question is this, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, by the mercy of Guru and Gauranga, we are having this knowledge theoretically. But when the situation comes, the point comes for the application, it goes. We just having our own idea, we apply that. So how to overcome? Many times we success. It's not that we are not getting success. Sometimes we success, sometimes we fail. How to always become success?
Yes. So as long as we are on the platform of anishtita bhajan kriya, unsteady devotional service, there will be ups and downs. As you rightly said, sometimes success, sometimes failure. That's because we are not yet perfect. So the more we come to nishtita bhajan kriya, the more we become more steady in our practices of devotional service, then more we can reduce these ups and downs. And so therefore, ultimately, we have to progress on the path of devotional service, purify ourselves by properly applying the process that Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas have given us. So when we sincerely follow the process and we purify ourselves, then this jnana that we are receiving from the books will turn into vigyan, will turn into realization, and then we'll be actually able to practice this knowledge and apply this knowledge within our own lives. And so therefore, this realization comes by kripa, comes by mercy. So in your name, you have kripamai. So one has to attract the kripa by properly following the process. So by following the process given by Guru and Krishna, and by trying to please the Vaishnavas, serve the Vaishnavas, we attract their mercy. And by their mercy, this jnana will turn into vigyan. And then we will be able to actually imbibe, assimilate, and practice these values within our own life. Hope that helps.
Thank you so much, Puji. It's very helpful. My last point is here. I'm not finding that link actually where I'm lacking in the application. So which will help me more.
Yeah, so for that we can consult our close friends or senior Vaishnavas who are close to us and take guidance from them.
Okay, Puji. And last, if it's possible, please give me her number as you told.
Right, so that you can get from VIHE also. So maybe you can contact them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Puji.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Yes, Vallabh Nimai.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for nice, both the sessions were very nice, Prabhu. So as you said, for the answer of the latest question, that at the level of the Nishtha, one will be able to stay on this platform. So Prabhu, as we as I am struggling in the path for Nishtha, it's very far from me. So what is the suggested for the devotees during that time when we are preparing and we are struggling and we are trying? So how to maintain this attitude, non-envious attitude at that time?
Yes, good question.
Because we have not reached
Yes.
at Nishtha, and we have to deal with devotees, and
Right.
enviousness is there.
Yes, so therefore, the association of devotees in general and especially senior Vaishnavas is very important. So as we are going through these various difficult situations, challenging situations, then we can take guidance from senior devotees and understand and learn from them how we can practically deal with the situations, how we can apply this philosophy within our own lives. So therefore, the guidance of senior devotees is very essential, because as long as we are simply influenced by the lower modes, then the lower modes will convince us that we are right. And then it'll be very difficult to rectify ourselves. So therefore, the guidance of other devotees is always required. And of course, our own sincere practices of devotional service are also very important. And when we are sincere, then Krishna, who's present as the Paramatma within the heart, will also give us proper guidance as to how we can proceed. Okay.
And Prabhuji, thank you. Little more about as Madhyamadikari also discriminates, and he ignore the the envious, those who are envious with the God, and even with the devotees. So how to relate with this too?
Yes, so that's also the mercy of the Madhyamadikari on the envious materialistic people, because if one tries to preach to the envious materialistic people, then their envy may only increase, and that will create problems for them. That will cause their own downfall. And so therefore, by avoiding the envious materialist, the preacher is actually showing his mercy on the envious.
Yes.
Is it okay?
Yeah, yes, bro. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, Ambika.
Thank you, Prabhu, very much for this very important class. I wanted to ask that, is wrath or hate always related to envy? I understand that, like it was explained before, that this wrath or hate arises when senses are not satisfied. And of course, we have a material desire then. But is it always envy, or can it be something else?
So wrath, anger, hate could be due to various reasons, not necessarily only envy. So it could be due to how the other person has dealt with us, and maybe because of, yes, of course, but one of the main reasons for that could be karma, that is unfulfilled desires. Unfulfilled desires usually lead to anger and hate and all these symptoms that occur, as Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita. Sangat sanjayate kama, kamat krodho vijayate. So when lust is not fulfilled, that results in anger. And so, of course, from an absolute viewpoint, then yes, ultimately everything is related to envy, because that is the root cause of material existence. So the material existence itself is due to envy, and so therefore, all the other anarthas which come are basically arising from that envy. That becomes the root cause. So, but there could be other immediate reasons for the wrath or the anger or the hatred. There could be some immediate reasons, but the root cause ultimately is envy. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks to all the devotees who have been patiently hearing these presentations. And I would like to also express my gratitude to the VIHE for kindly allowing me to render the service. So thank you all very much, and I look forward to your association again in the future. Hare Krishna. Can we conclude?
Thank you so much for the enlightening class, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so from the VIP side,
Thank you very
is it
much.
okay to close?
Yes, thank you very much, Vamsivadan Prabhu, for this wonderful value class. We learned so much, and we hope to hear from you again soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samved Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.